Meredith, thank you so much for
Hi,
joining us.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I would love to just jump right in and get you to introduce yourself first.
Yes, so my name is Meredith. I am, as you said, a mom of two with one on the way. I've got a little girl, both toddlers, little boy, and then this one we found out is a boy.
Oh,
I,
yay.
yep, I have just a huge passion for helping people cut through all the misinformation and greenwashing out there when it comes to finding safer products. I just think that it's rampant because it's become more popular. So it's really hard, and not a lot of people have time. I get it, to actually look through and figure out, okay, what's really safe, what's not. I'm just a truth seeker. Say it like it is, truth teller. So I really like to just do kind of the dirty work for people and help make it easier for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I feel like I don't know why the lighting here is weird, but I want to know from you, like, why is it important to like look beyond the ingredient label? Because, I do talk a lot about the ingredients because I feel like that's an easy way for people to kind of get a quick sense about products. But, you and I have talked, and I know that there's so much more kind of going on behind the scenes there. So I just wanted you to elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, this is a huge topic that I'm a big proponent of, and I feel like one of the only ones kind of in this clean living space, if you will, just because I feel like a lot of, what started clean living, if you will, is getting people to look at the ingredients in their products to see, oh, there's things in this that aren't actually considered safe, or aren't
Hmm.
being used at a dose that's safe, whatever it is. So I feel like it was kind of the first step, and now we're starting to move beyond that to discovering, and I feel like big accounts like Momavation, for instance, are, huge in bringing light to just how many forever chemicals, like the, various heavy metals or, whatever it may be. Um, those are also in not packaging and not just the ingredients. So there's a lot of steps that create a product to be safe for human health that go far beyond merely what's added intentionally to a product. And the
Mm-hmm.
more and more that I research, and I've had the privilege of, because of this space that I have here, it's cool. I get taken a little bit more seriously because I'm like, I'm an influencer. Even though I have a very small following, they more take me a little bit more seriously. So I've gotten to talk with like founders of companies or CEOs, the manufacturers themselves, which has been really cool, cosmetic chemists, just a lot of people who are experts in their fields who really know what they're doing and have been in the game for a while. And the more and more that I research, I personally find that it's the ingredients intentionally added to a product is such a small fraction of what goes into creating the product being safe. So the more that I look into it, I find that contaminations are really big. Companies not knowing what they're doing when combining different ingredients together, not having
Mm-hmm.
correct preservation, not doing correct testings, not supplying from reputable raw material suppliers, partnering with manufacturers that aren't as, that aren't certified correctly or that don't really know what they're doing and are skipping steps, some things becoming contaminated because of manufacturing processes. There's just so many steps in the process when you really look at from start to finish of what creates, a hand cream.
Yeah.
As something as simple as that, there's just so many steps in the process. So when you're looking merely at ingredients, it's one piece of the puzzle, which is great, but there's so many more. And the more that I'll, really research, like I never just look at the website or an ingredients and just be like, yeah, this looks good. I always, 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 if I'm like recommending a company or a product, I've called them and talked with them for like over an hour. And I just find that it's amazing how many ingredient labels will be safe, but they have no idea what they're doing, the company,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not doing basic things that they should be doing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing that not a lot of people are talking about, and it's because it's also much harder to see that, right? It's like very easy to look at the ingredient label and just read what's on there. But like you said, that's like one piece of the puzzle, and then there's this other huge thing, and especially in light of the recent news that came out about, like the benzene in sunscreen and the PFAS in makeup and stuff like that. Like, you know, not everything is going to be on the ingredient label. So what do you like, especially given those two recent studies that came out, like what do we do with that information? How do we assess like our products more, um, better as consumers? Like, what do we do with that information?
Yeah, I think it's really legitimate, and I'm glad that more things are coming to light. It's very difficult for things like that really to come to light, or even in the, baby food one that we saw a little while ago about
Mm,
various heavy metals in baby food. I think it's all very similar, and it's a good reminder and really affirms what I'm finding to be true, in that it is a lot less about the ingredients and more about the process and the behind the scenes and things that don't get looked into as much, which is what we already know to be true, and what we kind of teach a lot, within this kind of, clean living world, is that there's not a lot of regulation. There's not a lot of things being
hmm.
looked into. The FDA doesn't have a lot of power to recall, or,
Yeah.
whatever the different things like that. I think it's just a good reminder for us to, not get hung up on like, oh, well, we're eating organic. Well, it's more about just having, organic food. It's also about the packaging that it's in. And it's annoying that we have to deal with that, and think through and really research through it. So it takes a lot of time, but like a trick that I, always talk about on my channel, which, by the way, I do have a video that breaks down more of the why I don't like label reading guides, like
Hmm.
why I recommend looking more into things. I go more in depth on that video. But another thing I say is brand research instead of label read, because even if an individual ingredient label is okay, it doesn't mean that as a whole the company is doing what they're supposed to be. So I put a lot more time, and I feel like that's helped me in the long run. Like that's a tip that I would have, is just researching the brand as a whole and not looking as much at individual products, because chances are, if you're looking at the whole brand and making sure that they're following good practices, they have good relationships with who they're supplying from and who they're manufacturing with, and who's doing their testing, they're doing their due diligence and checking the boxes if they need to. That's also going to, like, choosing ingredients that are safe for human health it's going to fall into that. It's just, like I've said, a small piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So brand researching as a whole is really big, but yeah, I would say as well, just looking for certifications. That's another, like, easier thing to do that really helps, is relying on certifications that companies have. My favorite ones personally are MadeSafe and
Hmm.
EcoCert.
Okay.
Um, from the research I've done so far, there's a lot out there, but personally, those two are my favorites when it comes to products, in general. So I feel like certifications are the gold standard for transparency and
Hmm.
for helping consumers kind of get into that process without having to know all the information, maybe that I do, of what questions to ask
Yeah.
about, are you following good manufacturing practices? Different things like that. What microbial testings are you doing?
Hmm.
I've kind of learned the lingo and I've learned different things, but people don't always have time to do that, right? So
Yeah.
following, or choosing companies that have those certifications, like MadeSafe, for instance, especially has a lot that goes into even the sustainability and the packaging used. That's one of the,
Okay.
I would say that's one of the most in-depth certifications that I know of when it comes to products, at least, that covers not just ingredients, but also the testings involved for those ingredients, and also the manufacturing, everything from packaging to making sure that even though this ingredient is fine for human health and has shown that it's not harmful, well, this is for aquatic life. Like, this comes up as
Hmm.
something that isn't good for aquatic life, they'll mix that ingredient as well. So I feel like that's one of the more in-depth ones if you're looking for something kind of all across the board. And
Okay.
very similar, but those are very rigorous processes to get. The more you look into those certifications and the more companies that I talk to that have those, it's a very, very in-depth process. So I feel like that's a really good way, even more than a third-party database like EWG. I would first recommend relying on a company's certifications that they have, more than what someone else is saying about them.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know that there's kind of like a full spectrum certification there that you were talking about.
Yeah, it comes really close, that's for sure.
Okay, great. So what else, if you were going to leave like us with one more piece of advice for kind of how to get started with clean living, if people are overwhelmed, like thinking, oh my gosh, like what products am I using? Like, maybe I was using a sunscreen that tested positive for benzene, or like, how do I even know? Because I'm looking at the label and, it doesn't have a made safe certification and it doesn't have benzene. So like, what do I do? Um,
Yeah. Yes, I hear this one a lot, and I feel like there's not necessarily a wrong way to do it. It's going to be very different per person, per
Hmm.
family. If you have kids, I go over this in one of my videos of 6 things I wish I knew when I like first started clean, like my clean living journey. It's just kind of different ways to go about it. But I mean, one of the big things, I think kids are more vulnerable than adults are. They're growing, developing bodies. So changing out kid products is,
Hmm.
for me personally, something I'm going to be, working on first. If I have a budget, if I'm working on, I can only do one product this month, that's already making a difference. So, focusing on that. Another way to do it is just replacing as you need to replace products. If you're already running out of, a new, or a makeup product or something, research that one product, and, you're about to run out of shampoo or whatever,
Hmm.
research that and try to find that one product so that it's not too overwhelming. But the main thing I would keep in mind is just that every small change that you're doing really is helping, because it really is, even, huge organizations like WHO and the CDC and the EPA and the FDA, they even recognize and use the, kind of analogy of it being a toxicity threshold. And this is what's so difficult when determining what people can handle certain things, more than others, and what products work
Hmm.
for some and what work for don't, or what products don't work for some people, is that everybody's threshold is different for what their body can handle and properly detox out, for instance. So if you think of it kind of like a, bathtub of water or something, and you're like trying to remove, toxins or whatever, however you want to say it, everything you're doing is making a difference, and it is, removing some of that water or adding, however you want to say it. Even if it's something small that you're doing, that is it, it is making a difference, it is helping reduce the toxic load, is like
Right.
the phrase that I like to use more than cutting out toxins. You technically can't cut out all toxins, just because they're in our environment, they're everywhere, so it's just more reducing it so that it's not overloading your body. So, and that's another way too that you could think of it, as just products you use the most.
Hmm.
If you're using one product every single day and it's constantly around you, change that one out first, because that's something you're having a lot of exposure to.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with all of that. Like we started off with my kids' products as well, about 3 years ago when I kind of started looking into this stuff and have made slow changes
Mm-hmm.
of, things that I was running out of and swap them out. And so I think it's super important that you don't get overwhelmed, that you just take it one step at a time and use this advice that Meredith gave today to like help assess which products you do want to switch out and which ones you want to start with, and just take it from there. So tell us how people can get in touch with you or and get to know you more.
Yeah, so I have a website blog that I'm kind of trying to switch over to be like my main source of, communication or information. That everything's going to be the most in depth on there. So if you just go to my profile here on Instagram, obviously I have an Instagram as well. I'll post stuff on here as well, but like the full blog post will be up on my website. So you can subscribe on my blog and get updates every time that I post something, which these days hasn't been as much just because of pregnancy. It's been kicking my butt, but I am going to be consistent. So yeah, I'd say that's the main way, but also just messaging me here. My emails on the website. I've got a lot of different channels, like a YouTube channel. I've got Pinterest you can follow. I've got a Facebook page, all that information, including like discount codes or links. Like everything that I have is all on my website. So that's probably the easiest, like, one-stop shop place to go to.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Well, I'll put your handle in the comments of this video so people can easily find you. And I just want to say that Meredith is a researcher that I completely trust. She is so in depth and she really just takes it to the next level and knows her stuff. So you should definitely go and follow her and like binge her content as well. Well, thank you so much for being here,
Yeah,
and
thanks for
we'll
having
talk
me.
again soon.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
You're welcome. Bye.